Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're on our business items, and I'll just ask for the board chair to be shared, board chair report to be shared. I don't really have anything to add to it. That's just kind of what's been going on. We do have 2 dates for Sister Board meetings coming up in April, so that'll be good. We are going to be talking about the cost agenda. And the budget was the big news in this last while. So if there's, I'm willing to take any questions if anyone has anything to add. Okay. So we can move on to the superintendent's report, 7.2.
Madam Chair, did you want that projected or not?
Sure. Do you have a couple of items that you're going to highlight?
Yes. And on that note, I will be asking Sean and Lori to give some details of certain items as they were primarily responsible for the work behind it.
Sure.
So I'll first start off by highlighting in the area of faith leadership. I'll just wait for that to be projected. And if we could get that a little larger, please. In the area of faith leadership, we have a divisional winner for the Excellence in Catholic Education Award. So at this time, I'll ask Sean to give the board a little bit of an overview of the winner.
My pleasure, thank you. So with respect to the Excellence in Catholic Education Award, our recipient this year is Christina Ambrosio, who is a teacher at Sacred Heart. And she is known to be a passionate, faith-filled teacher, serves with grace and joy, and acknowledges students as gifts from God. She has a patient and gentle demeanor. She's very active with the Sacred Heart Church in Wetaskiwin in multiple ways, including choir, greeter, children's liturgy, and lector. She promotes faith in many ways throughout Sacred Heart School as a member of the school leadership team, including creating stunning displays at the entrance of the school. As a school division, we honor and celebrate Christy's love and dedication to Catholic education.
Excellent. Congratulations to Christy and Sacred Heart School.
Yeah, wonderful.
That's great.
And
Long time coming.
Sean will be working with Caitlin to do a little bit of a press release on that. And as well, she will be recognized at our awards night.
Great. Thank you very much.
The next item that I'd like to highlight, still in the area of faith leadership, is the bullet that starts coordinated year 1 mentorship sessions. So again, we do a lot of work with our new teachers in the area of faith, and I'm going to ask Lori maybe to speak to this bullet if she could, please.
Absolutely, thank you. So this is under the direction of Claire, and this is a mentorship session for all teachers or who are new to the division. One of the assurance goals is that staff are provided with faith formation opportunities with the outcome that staff are able to articulate and witness the faith and able to permeate the school curriculum and activities with gospel values. So this is in meeting that the assurance goal. So essentially, as we onboard new staff, we ensure that they know their responsibilities in speaking about their faith and being able to witness to how their Catholic faith has impacted their life. So in these sessions, we provide them with the understanding of why each of us is called as evangelizers, and as well as helping to increase their knowledge of different ways that the church has authoritatively passed on and continues to pass on the good news and strengthen the faith of the body of Christ through scripture, prayer, and liturgy.
Thank you, Lori. Next, I'll ask Ed if you could take us to number 6. We do a lot of work in the area of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit, and that portfolio primarily falls under the Director of curriculum and staff development, Chris Arsky. But I'll get Lori maybe to speak to the second bullet a little bit, because I thought it was some great work that's being done in this area.
So Chris has been working with CARC and collaborating with CARC on a number of initiatives. One is that they are working to be partners with Red Deer Public in the development of the FNMI kits. As well, they've been developing lessons to go along with the Mathology FNMI books that were purchased through the grant. And through CARC, they've been discussing about the need to have elders and present at some of the development of these items, just essentially so that they have an Indigenous perspective and that they know that they're, moving in the right direction and furthering their knowledge. So, and as well, they've been booking Elder Wilfred Buck from Manitoba, and he did present on some of the teacher convention days for Central Alberta. So that's the majority of what that's about. The community of practice through CARC as well is that they're basically relating to FNMI and sharing means of bringing and tangibly sharing resources on the spot. And so they're coming up with strategies for that. And they're liaising with new elders, knowledge keepers, and speakers coming to jurisdictions, and basically where we could collaborate and learn together. And just planning also long-term projects, as well as things like culture camps for adults. Last year it was in Olds. They're continuing to work on that, and hopefully, though, with COVID, that they will be able to continue that into the new year. I think that's about it for the majority of information in regards to those bullets.
Thank you, Lori. And then I'll ask that we go to number 7 and at the bottom of the page, I'll just at the top of 7, sorry. Just want to, keep you in the loop as things develop with Father Lacombe School. So we now have, as you know, the contractor Shunda on site, and fencing has gone up, and we're beginning phase 1. I will give the board a bit of a heads up that we are entertaining discussions, nothing has been finalized yet, about the possibility of shifting the project a little bit in its phasing. Originally, the old gymnasium was going to be taken down, as well as the second story, which is butted right against the gymnasium in phase 2. So we're hearing a proposal from Shunda that could happen in phase 1. And that will mean the loss of the gymnasium, possibly from April to October. But what that does mean, on the bright side, although we'd be without a gymnasium, we would get to school a year earlier, which in times of construction, you can understand that is, it's a little bit of short-term pain for long-term gains. So we're working through the possibilities and how to make that work. Primarily, it's the loss of the staff room and how do we deal with that. The other space upstairs is the library, but we think we can manage without the library for that time. So that's kind of where things are at. Things are moving, and the contractors right into the plans of the first step, which is hazard assessment and abatement of kind of the front east part of that building. At the bottom of the page is an area that I would like to highlight. Oh, just the bottom of that up a bit. Thank you. I'm going to get Lori to speak to the second last bullet there about the family school liaison workers.
Thank you. So I attended the meeting, excuse me, with the family school liaison workers under the direction of Chris Piro and psychologist Karen Dragon. And essentially part of the meeting was really talking about some of the stress that our communities are under and talking about what they're facing and what they're dealing with, and sort of that compassion fatigue that they're experiencing right now. So, when I asked them, I said, what are some of the big things that you're really facing right now. And they said there's a really increased pressure on families in regards to financial stress, emotional stress of being isolated, things that probably will have ripple effects for many years, like in things such as, somebody in the family loses a job. Well, then that could essentially have the family lose their house, or, so they're just really dealing with a lot of stress. And so this was the conversation around that. And also, in some of our smaller communities, of not having the resources that they had before in regards to mental health, that like FCSS, wasn't providing counseling, different organizations being reviewed and not having those supports. So this was the discussion amongst the group, and there was a little bit of brainstorming as to how they can mitigate the fatigue that they're feeling at this time.
Thank you, Lori. And those are the items that have been highlighted this month. So I will entertain any questions if there are any on any other items or any of those that were highlighted.
Any comments or questions? Trustee Tugwood?
I just had one question about FNMI. You said you're staffing with a First Nations focus. Can you explain just what you mean by that?
That was a specific hire in one of our schools, and I don't know, Sean, if you have anything you want to mention regarding that.
I thought it meant general staffing of EAs, but it was just one EA position?
Yes, through the chair. We actually were staffing a position at Sacred Heart School. We did have a First Nations person involved in the EA, and we actually needed to replace that person. So that staffing was sort of just repeated a second time is all it was.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Sorry, go ahead, Trustee Tugwood.
The recognition of DV trustee. What does DV mean?
Drayton Valley.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Trustee Appleton.
Yeah. Just back to the Kirk work with First Nations and all of that. Just curious, Laurie, are there any opportunities or discussions with MERCS about some inputs there?
Yes, so we often collaborate with MESC. Due to COVID, we haven't, done any kind of exchanges or anything like that. But that was on the docket for this upcoming year in our implementation plan. So that's just been put on hold at this time. But yes, Chris Zdarsky continues to collaborate with MESC, with authorities there, essentially. So yeah, she's got a very good working relationship.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I just have to put you on mute for a moment. Sorry, I had to step away, and I'm going to have to step away for a moment again. But anyhow, I just wanted to recognize Chris and all that work that she is doing with First Nations Métis Inuit, because it's a lot. And I did attend one of the CARC PDs, I think it was like 2 years ago, and it was just an excellent session in Ponoka. I think that's where it was. And then just going back to the mental health of staff, and just wondering, like, what came out of that meeting for, working through that stress, or are more resources needed, or what are the options there?
So I'm not sure how can answer that. I guess we would try to support our staff in a number of ways, but our FSLWs really do support the entire school community. So as Lori mentioned, one of the things they do talk about is staff stress. We also have that conversation with administrators, often kind of by school and by individual. So we try to support our staff as best we can that way. Again, we do not have a divisional board priority or a local priority on staff mental health. It's more on students. But with that said, we don't ignore staff mental health, but we do try to support staff as best we can. Yeah, I guess it's just working with administrators in this current environment of COVID, to make sure that the pressures and demands that we place on our staff are not excessive, and that it's, considerate of the current environment.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering if we should add the ACSTA award to the work plan, because the ASBA Edwin Parr is in the month of March as well, just so that we have them both at the same time, because we are
the Excellence in Catholic Education Award is a superintendent's award.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry, I forgot that. Okay, no worries. And I guess I just had another question about mental health resources. So, lots of promotion about mental health resources online, and we talked about mental health resources at our community consultation, but like, what is the uptake with, or do we know the uptake of online resources? Is it, it's like the second choice of a resource, wouldn't it be, rather than the first choice of having support right in the building? Or
so again, Lori may want to speak to this, but those aren't our websites, so we don't have analytics on those websites. The government might have that. You could funnel that through your channels at ASBA to ask, if the government could report back. We do provide a wide array of in-school supports, and those are in the education. Those strategies are highlighted in the board's education plan. You'll recall, so we primarily focus on mental health literacy and the third path as the strategies that are currently in place. And then we do have in-staff personnel as well that provide a list of supports to students on an ongoing basis.
okay, thank you. Yes, and ASBA, they did they are collecting information on a survey. So anyhow, we're using the results from that survey that ASBA is collecting all that information from across school divisions in Alberta, and they are informing the Minister of Education with that information. So
I guess Madam Chair, what I was saying is you could ask the ministry for a report back on the utilization by students of their promoted websites.
yes, good point. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if you could remember at our last discussion with our MLAs, that was something as well that one of them was going to look into, because he had wanted to gain that understanding. So probably would be a good idea if ASBA wouldn't, we can just ask the that member, we have a good relation, to say what has he found out.
The follow-up, yeah. Okay, and just wondering, the pilot for the new curriculum, what does that look like in our division? That was in your report as well.
So we were in the preliminary stages of that. The government has not released detail yet of the pilot program, so there'll be more to come on that. But we're pretty much ready. We had a plan in place before government changed, and when we anticipated the original rollout of curriculum. So that kind of plan is just on hold, but it does involve a full in-servicing of staff members, and Chris Zarsky and Lori are involved in making sure that happens. But we've been told that the province will release details in the coming weeks of what the pilot will look like. So we're just waiting for that information.
Okay, thank you. I guess I had a note here about the Vitra and the tactic training, like how that training is going, especially now that that second type of training that would be very helpful right now.
Right,
The trauma training.
So Tactic is a software that allows us to electronically track the work in Vitra. And we actually had a training session that was scheduled for this afternoon. We've postponed that in light of recent incidences and circumstances at this time.
Okay, so sorry, what's the difference here? I thought there was another piece to Vitra that was about understanding the trauma that students and staff will be experiencing and how to deal with that.
Yeah, Lori, do you want to speak to that?
That's called TESS, or Trauma Event System. And Chris Piro has been trained in TESS, and that is with Kevin Cameron from NACTAR, and he's the originator of of Vitra. So I think you mentioned this earlier, Charlie, that Kevin Cameron will be working with us.
We're gonna talk about that later on.
Okay, my apologies. Thank you.
Madam Chair, is that clear? Just like you're confused about those acronyms, yeah.
Yeah. I just automatically went to the trauma, training. Just when I was thinking about it. So anyhow, are there any other comments or questions for Charlie, or Lori, or Sean? Okay, so we are getting close to noon, so maybe we could just take our break now, lunch break, and come back to 7.3 after lunch. So is till 12:30 good enough, or do we need a longer lunch?
Half hour should be okay.
Half hour? Okay, everybody thumbs up? Okay, we'll be back at 12:30.